Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is continuing to bounce from this crucial area of support as the price of Bitcoin is getting closer towards confirming this new price pattern in the immediate short term, as we now have more liquidity building above the price of Bitcoin, which we need to pay attention to on this chart right here, while the price of Solana is now bouncing from a very crucial level on the price chart, following XRP also bouncing from a very crucial level on the price chart. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. But on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, obviously we still have the massive bearish divergence to watch out for, which has already been playing out very nicely for around a month now, as I've been saying every day for over a month now on the channel. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, like I've been saying more recently over the last half a week to almost 1 week now, obviously we're seeing in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD, we're now basically reducing the bearish momentum, moving towards a bullish crossover, slowly towards a bullish crossover. And so obviously this is the first sign that we're seeing that we're potentially rounding out the lows here, and we could be due to see a little bit further of a recovery, because the last time we saw something like this in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD was right around here, basically at the beginning of March. Obviously back then we still saw a little bit of choppy sideways price action, slight bearish price action, but overall we were relatively close to the lows by that point. But obviously, at least for now, we've not yet confirmed a new bullish crossover. So unlike what we saw around middle of April, we've not actually seen the massive increase in bullish momentum right now. So once again, we're seeing declining bearish momentum, which is good news, meaning we might see a bit more of a short-term recovery in the price of Bitcoin and other crypto assets, but still kind of lacking the massive bullish momentum that we saw, for example, in the second half of April, entering into early May. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, obviously the price of Bitcoin is still bouncing in a bit of a sideways price range. First of all, we're bouncing perfectly from this major area of support here, still sitting at around 106.7k to 107.6k. And of course, we have this previous Fibonacci level right here, currently acting as resistance, sitting at approximately 113,500, so 113.5k acting as resistance. And for now, the price of Bitcoin is basically just bouncing around between that support and that resistance in a bit of a sideways price range, at least for now in the shorter term. And technically speaking, we've not yet invalidated this larger bearish divergence, not just on the daily time frame, but also once again on the weekly time frame. So keep that in mind. But if we're taking a look at the shorter term on the 4-hour time frame, I'll not necessarily rely on this short-term bearish divergence really any longer. Obviously, it already played out very nicely for a couple of days or so, but usually a bearish divergence just on the 4-hour time frame, the smaller time frames here, usually these divergences only play out just over a few days or so before they start to lose relevance and potentially reverse. And so overall, honestly, I'll not be surprised if we continue to see maybe just a slight little bullish relief like this, still overall lacking bullish momentum. So once again, we can see maybe some slight bullish price action, but not significant momentum towards the upside like what we saw back here, for example, in the larger time frames. And so obviously that's basically what this MACD indicator, the momentum, is looking like on the 3-day time frame. And that would also coincide with the bearish divergences technically still active on these Bitcoin price charts. But remember, during these bearish divergences lacking overall bullish momentum, of course we can see shorter term bullish moves from time to time. So we could likely see a little bit more of a short-term relief like this moving forward, maybe in the next couple of days or so. And if we're taking a look at the 6-hour Bitcoin price chart, we can see that right now the price of Bitcoin is still possibly forming an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Now, obviously it's not a perfect textbook inverse head and shoulders pattern, but with that being said, we've already formed the left shoulder, the head, and right now we're potentially forming this right shoulder, as we can see right here. And so obviously we already had a bit of a right shoulder just here, and we attempted a breakout, got very close to a breakout here, but never confirmed the candle closes above the neckline. Once again, we need to confirm candle closes above this line of resistance, ideally above these horizontal highs right here, sitting at roughly 113,000. But if we're looking at this descending line of resistance, this neckline right here for the inverse head and shoulders pattern, that's sitting at just above 112,000, around 112.2k. But once again, ideally to be a bit more confident in the bullish breakout, confirming the price pattern and the price target for this pattern, Ideally, I'd like to see a breakout above 113,000 with candle closes above that level in order to actually confirm a new higher high. And so obviously, as of recording this video, we've not yet confirmed the breakout, which means this possible price pattern that's forming is not confirmed. It is not yet in play. But if we end up confirming the breakout here above the neckline, ideally above 113,000 approximately, in that situation, that would set up a bullish price target for this bullish inverse and shoulders pattern sitting at approximately $117,000 per Bitcoin, which is pretty much right at this high right here at 117,000. And what's also interesting is I've been talking about 117,000 for a long time now on the channel, since before we actually rejected back at this high. Obviously, I've been saying we have very strong resistance that is a crucial level on the price chart at 117,000. So we now have multiple things on different charts right here pointing towards potentially 117,000 as a price target and a major point of resistance. But remember, only if we first confirm a breakout, ideally above 113,000. So in the immediate short term, roughly 113,000, that is the immediate resistance to watch out for. But then if we break out above 113,000, that could possibly open up a trading opportunity from roughly 113,000 towards roughly 117,000 as a potential take profit point from a shorter term long position. Not financial advice, I'm just sharing a possible trading opportunity here. And in that example, in that possible trading opportunity, let's just say if you open a long position at this breakout level right here to the price target, that's potentially just over a 4% move towards the upside, or from roughly 113,000 give or take towards that price target. That's still around a 3.5 to almost 4% move towards the upside, but that's with no leverage. For example, 10x leverage long position, around a 30 to 40% profit in that example. Quick and easy profit if this ultimately confirms. And of course, the point of invalidation would be if we first confirm the breakout above this neckline, above ideally 113,000, and then after confirming the breakout, if we then confirm a break back below the point of the breakout, so for example, candle closes back below 113k, 112k, in that situation, that would invalidate the breakout, invalidate the pattern, and invalidate the price target altogether. And so, for example, once again, not financial advice, but let's just say if I'm taking this long position, I would have my entry once, of course, we confirm the breakout, not before we confirm. And then if we confirm the breakout here and I enter a long position, I'd have a stop loss just below the point of invalidation, so that if we ultimately invalidate the trade, that will be the worst case scenario. And in that case, I'll just take a small loss, avoiding further losses in the worst case scenario. And then ideally, if the trade moves further into profits, personally with my trading strategies, I like to move my stop loss at least towards break even, towards my entry, ideally moving my stop loss further into profits to essentially secure profits and protect any downside risk in that worst case scenario. And so whether you take trades like this or any other trades, this is definitely the time in the market to get set up ready to go if you haven't already on a crypto exchange, in order to actually take these trading opportunities as soon as they happen if you want to. And personally, I take a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses. For example, up to 25,000 USDT in trading bonuses here, simply just by trading crypto using that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. Once again, first link below this video. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, there's also Pinex as another exchange out there that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to Pinex below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page where you can also claim some massive bonuses. For example, if you simply just make an account, complete KYC, it takes about 60 seconds to do this, and you get a free $50 bonus from the exchange onto your Pinex account, but only if you use that link. And there's also deposit bonuses here. For example, if you deposit just $100, you get a $100 bonus, or if you deposit up to $10,000, you get a $1,000 bonus onto your Pinex account. But remember, all of these bonuses here are only available if you're using the links below this video to actually make your accounts on these exchanges. So once again, if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check it out, the links below this video. And in case you're wondering, yes, you can access Pinex as well without KYC. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map real quick, and right now we have a lot of liquidity building above the price, sitting at close to 114,000 at around 113.7k to 114.1k. In that area right there, we have a lot of shorter term liquidity, and usually, not always, but usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where we have a lot of liquidity liquidity. So you could think of this area right around here acting as a bit of a magnet for the price of Bitcoin, drawing Bitcoin towards that area. So obviously, if we ultimately hit that level right there, that would of course suggest a breakout for this potential inverse head and shoulders pattern, activating a bullish price target. So keep that in mind, at least for now. And if we're taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the 3-day time frame, obviously right now and just recently, we have been seeing a slight little short-term bounce in the Bitcoin dominance, which at least while this is happening, it's not really too good for altcoins. It's not good news for altcoins, but obviously we can see shorter-term bounces from time to time during this larger pullback. And technically speaking, the larger price structure on this 3-day Bitcoin dominance chart is technically still bearish, which means overall it's quite likely, it's more likely than not that we'll ultimately continue another pullback maybe in a few days from now or over the next week or so. And so once again, just in the immediate short term, any little bounces we see, not great for altcoins, but overall, while we're still in the larger pullback for the next few, for example, weeks, that is still good for altcoins. Just in the immediate short term, we're taking a bit of a break from the bearish trend. And if we're taking a look at the Ethereum price chart on the 3-day time frame, right now Ethereum is still just bouncing around in this sideways price range, exactly as I've been saying for over a week now on the channel. I've been saying expect the price to bounce around relatively sideways in this sideways price range in between this support and this resistance. And in case you're new to the channel, this area of support is still sitting in between around 3.9k to 4.1k, and this area of resistance is still sitting in between around 4.8k to 4.9k. And technically speaking, the longer term trend or the larger price structure still currently looking very bullish for Ethereum. Just in the somewhat shorter term situation, obviously we're lacking momentum to either direction, looking actually quite neutral, bouncing around in a sideways price range just in the shorter term. And it's potentially one of the major reasons as to why we're losing bullish momentum, cooling off a little bit in the shorter term, is of course due to the fact that we still have an active bearish divergence currently playing out for the price of ETH here on the daily Ethereum price chart. And obviously, as I always say, a bearish divergence by itself does not mean we're going to see a major crash or anything like that. Usually it results in either just a slight pullback or maybe some choppy sideways price action, overall playing out some weakness and a lack in bullish momentum. And of course, over the last 1 to 2 weeks, that's exactly what we've seen, as I've been saying, over the last 1 to 2 weeks. And so honestly, it's actually quite likely that this will continue at least over the coming days here. Now, obviously soon enough, maybe in a week from now, for example, we might finally see a bit more change for the price of ETH in the shorter term, but at least in the next 1 or 2 days, it's quite likely we'll see relatively neutral price action, still lacking bullish momentum just in the immediate short term here. And if we're taking a look at Solana on the 2-day time frame, it's a similar situation for Solana as what I just said for Ethereum, because technically the longer term trends, the larger price structure on the 2-day Solana price chart is still technically bullish. We're still forming higher lows and higher highs, but of course the short term situation is that the price is just basically bouncing around sideways, looking very neutral, at least in the immediate short term. And right now the key area of support to watch out for is this area sitting in between around 190 to 200, and above that we have some resistance at roughly 214 to 215 and some major resistance at around 230. And then only if we confirm a breakback below around $190, especially if we see candle closes below that level and fail to get back above that area on the price chart, then only in that situation I would expect a drop down towards most likely 167 to 170. But remember, overall we're looking very neutral in the immediate short term and still within a longer term bullish trend, at least for now. That is the situation on this 2-day Solana price chart. And if we're taking a look at the 12-hour time frame, we're still possibly forming that rising wedge pattern that I've talked about recently here on the channel, which statistically speaking is a bearish price pattern, but obviously we've not yet confirmed a break below this line of support, at least as of recording this video. In fact, just recently we saw a slight little bounce from this line of support, which at least while that bounce is happening, that is some good news to pay attention to. And in case you're wondering, this line of resistance for the rising wedge is currently sitting at roughly $216, and this line of support is currently sitting at around $201. But remember, even if we break below 201, in that situation we still have this area of support here in between 190 to 200, and then only if we break back below that area, really that would activate the bearish price target for this rising wedge sitting at the bottom of the wedge, which is sitting at roughly 158 to 159. But obviously before then we have a lot of support to first focus on, and it would actually be quite unlikely the price of Solana will go down towards those much lower price targets if Bitcoin, for example, sees this breakout here. If Bitcoin breaks out towards the upside in the shorter term, it's likely that will help a lot of altcoins, at least in the short term, while that is happening. So if you're an altcoin holder or an altcoin trader, definitely pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing to figure out what could be likely about to happen for a lot of the altcoin market. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, technically speaking, despite whatever happens on the smaller time frames, we're still playing out a massive bearish divergence on the weekly time frame with higher highs in the price and lower highs in the RSI. So not much has changed over the last one day on this weekly XRP price chart. And if we're taking a look at this daily XRP price chart, as of recording this video, the price of XRP is currently testing a key level on the price chart, sitting at roughly $2.90, really in between $2.85 to $2.90. That has been acting as a short-term area of resistance and previously an area of support to watch out for. So for now, once again, it's possibly still acting as resistance, but if we ideally see a daily candle close confirm back above $2.90 and hold above that level in the immediate short term for the following days, maybe the following week, that is some short-term bullish price structure, and we could possibly see a bullish relief up towards the next key level on the price chart on this daily time frame, sitting at around $3.08. But once again, only if we ideally first confirm a breakout above $2.90. And we also have short-term support at roughly around $2.75, which we've bounced from very recently, as we could see. And below $2.75, we have this important area right here in between around $2.55 to $2.62. And if we're taking a look at this daily XRP price chart, we're still possibly forming a descending triangle pattern, but obviously in the immediate short term, once again, we're bouncing from roughly $2.75, the level of support that I've been talking about since before we bounced from that exact level. I've been talking about $2.75 basically since this previous low back here. And as for resistance for the descending triangle pattern, that line of resistance is currently sitting at approximately $2.96. So that could also act as a bit of short-term resistance to watch out for. And honestly, if we end up seeing a breakout above this line of resistance for the descending triangle pattern, in that situation, I'll just be targeting the next highs as next take profit points or points of resistance. For example, if we continue a breakout here, so for example, the initial price target, if we break out above around $2.96, $2.97, give or take, will be sitting at around $3.08. And then above that, we'll have a major price target at just above $3.30, around $3.31 to $3.33, based on these highs right here. And if we're taking a look at the Chainlink price chart on the daily time frame, it's a somewhat similar situation for Chainlink. Obviously, the longer term trends, the larger price structure, technically still bullish, forming higher lows and higher highs. But in the somewhat shorter term, during the long term bullish trend, we've been in a short term bearish trend. In other words, a pullback during the larger trend, kind of like what we saw back here, for example. And if we ultimately continue this pullback a little bit further, we're getting very close to a very important level of support, starting at roughly 2150, 2160, around these previous lows just here. But then just below that, we have a crucial area right here, sitting in between $20 to $21. There's a very important area on the price chart, because for as long as we're holding above that area, the larger price structure is still looking good. It's still looking bullish for as long as we're holding above $20 to $21. And if we ultimately see another short-term bounce again to ultimately continue the larger bullish price structure, the next points of resistance to watch out for are, first of all, close to $23. We could find some resistance around there. And then at really in between around $24.30 to $25, we have major resistance, especially closer towards $25, and also significant resistance at close to $27. And of course, one of the major reasons as to why we're seeing a lot of weakness, cooling off, and lacking bullish momentum for the price of Chainlink over the last couple of weeks is due to the fact that we're playing out a major bearish divergence on the daily Chainlink price chart. And as of recording this video, we've not yet confirmed any invalidation signal to actually invalidate this bearish divergence, which means right now it is still active and still influencing the price of Chainlink. And so what this tells us is that just in the shorter term, maybe for the next few days, it's quite likely Chainlink will continue to play out very similar price action to what we've seen over the last 1 to 2 weeks or so. So not necessarily a major crash straight towards the downside, but most likely either a slight pullback or maybe some choppy sideways price action, overall showing weakness and lacking bullish momentum, at least for the next few days or so, is a very likely scenario for the price of Chainlink. But remember, if you want to get set up ready to go to take these trading opportunities in the price of any crypto, get set up ready to go using those links below this video. So those exchanges, if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links to those exchanges. And if you want to actually know how you can trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.